Hello, welcome back to the AM Club right here on MX24. If you're just joining in, you made the right choice. My name is Miriam Uduak-Mensah, about to get into a big conversation for today, which zooms us into Lifestyle Daily. And of course, on Mondays, we delve into national issues, discussing news trends, and of course, we review the stories that you are asking questions about. And so stay right here with us as we delve into that. Joining me this morning from the NDC camp, he is a member of the NDC National Communications team, and he is Salim Adams. Of course, from the MPP Communications team, he is Jesse Jakes. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Are you happy?
Of course.
For the NDC people, this Nibidi Christmas, this weekend was just a party for you, because Chief of Staff was celebrating his birthday.
Oh yeah.
And so you people went to Chumi, didn't invite us. Okay, we got you. We got you. Thanks. Right now, we know friends of, Anyway, let's move on. Jesse Jakes, you didn't get an invite.
Mimi, no, I didn't get an
invite.
Even though I have some good friends in the NDC, but
they didn't invite you.
They didn't invite
Can you imagine our friend, what's his name?
Julius.
Julius didn't invite us.
Reginald.
Oh.
They didn't invite us.
Oh, this is sad.
They will come and meet us
your
in
friend.
But Mimi, one thing, I have a preliminary comment, just 1 minute.
Really? What's that?
And it's about the creative arts industry.
Okay.
You know, when you read the NDC's 2024 People's Manifesto, you realize that a lot was promised for the people in the creative arts industry.
Yeah.
In fact, they listed about 100 campaign promises for the creative arts industry. One of them, they promised to create a specialized 24-hour TV station to showcase indigenous local
Which we
films.
pushed up against, I think. We pushed up against strongly.
No, but it was listed in their campaign book, so we expect them to do it. And they also promised to give tax incentives to musicians who have the TIN number. They've not done that. They also promised to establish national theaters in Kumasi, Tamale, and I think around the Bono region. They've not also done that. There are a lot of campaign promises in the 2024 People's Manifesto for the creative arts industry. But they've not done that. Not even a single promise has been fulfilled. And it's nearly 2 years. They've not done a single thing. And so, Mimi, I know that you interview musicians and artists in the creative arts industry.
We'll find out from them. But I think last week we saw something about the National Film Authority going into those theaters that had been left abandoned for years to just resuscitate, these buildings.
So we hope that
some
of the
things hopefully we are going to. But I think Kafui Danko and the teams, that move is a brilliant one, and if they follow through to make it happen,
it's actually part of what the government is doing in that regard. You don't expect the government to finish everything within this short period.
It's not what we expect or what we don't expect.
No, I'm actually saying something.
Okay, this is not part of my conversation.
I'm actually saying something.
But I'm just saying, I want to give
comments. I don't expect you to make comments.
No. Props to Kafui Danko,
I'm trying to make you
James
understand
Gardner and the team at National Films Authority. They're doing a great job, because that move for me, again, whether it's government supported,
that's the point I'm trying to make.
Just that office is
but there are very important promises in the manifesto that are supposed to
we have 2 years more to go.
Absolutely.
If at the end of 2028 they didn't
you can make this argument.
You can't wait to the end of 2028.
You can make this argument after 2028.
Again, it's good to remind them.
Exactly. So
those are their promises. They know what they said. They know what they said.
And that's what we are working on.
And so they cannot go back on it and hope that Ghanaians will forgive them. And so we're on it. But to our topics for this morning, High Commissioner urges Ghanaians in South Africa to remain on high alert. And I don't know why this is what we are being told, but for the Ghanaian, I think what we heard from Okujoto Ablakwa this morning, from one of the stories that we had access to, he said he had reached out to a gentleman that was being harassed in South Africa, and they are bringing him back to Ghana safely. And we're back to this xenophobic or xenophobic attacks on Ghanaians. And so if you're not privy to this story, I'm going to just give you a little background, and then I'll take your comment on that. So Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa, Benjamin Kofi Kwashi, has urged Ghanaians living in South Africa to remain in high alert following recent xenophobic attacks targeting foreign nationals. According to him, a series of high-level meetings have been held in South African authorities to address the growing tensions and ensure the safety of affected communities. Now, he spoke to Joy News on this one, and so let's get into it. Gentlemen, this conversation came up about 4 years ago, I believe, or more.
2019.
2019, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, right. And, you know, it wasn't exactly a target on Ghanaians. But this time we saw that, you know, some Ghanaians were being attacked, and they were referring to what would be done in Ghana if such people were living in Ghana, and many stories that came out from that. It was very heartbreaking to see, considering the fact that we have history of, you know, a very pleasant relationship with South Africa, with even South Africa becoming the country it is today. And so one would say that illiteracy is really a disease, because if people do not understand their history, then you would see such acts from them.
Absolutely.
Having said that, we've seen our authorities are very able, Foreign Affairs Minister taking moves, and so we're looking at a change to this. But as a young Ghanaian, what does this mean to you, and what are your comments on it? I'm going to start with you because your government is in power. Let me just add that to it.
Okay, so as we all can see, the foreign minister is doing very well in this regard when it comes to diplomatic issues.
Yeah.
He's doing tremendously well. So I think we should commend him for what he's doing. And looking at what the High Commissioner has said, it is only right for our brothers and sisters living in South Africa to stay on high alert, as it has already been stated. But I think what is happening in South Africa is being treated diplomatically, too diplomatically. Because in any case, I don't understand why Ghanaians living in another African country, an African living in another African country, to be treated the way they are being treated. It is very bad, and I think the president of South Africa must do something about it. They must take serious measures in trying to protect the people of Ghana living in their country. Because if we are to attack the people, the South Africans living in this country, it will not be a good news for them. If you are to retaliate, it will not be a good news for them, because in this country, we have a lot of South African companies in this country earning and making more profit from this country. So in a case where we retaliate the attacks, what would it be for their economy?
And that's what pretty much happened in Nigeria when this happened. You remember that ShopRite was raided. You know, there were a lot of attacks on South African companies in Nigeria.
Absolutely. So if this thing happens, it means that the preachings that we've been preaching on AU summits that about Pan-Africanism is a waste.
Make Africa borderless is a complete
waste. So we should actually be pushing the South African government to be doing more to protect Africans living in South Africa, so that this situation will not escalate.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Jesse.
Yeah, Mimi, let me say a very good morning to you once again.
Morning.
A very good morning goes to the Deputy Minority Leader. Mimi, when I heard the news, I was very sad and surprised at the same time, because the success story of South Africa is incomplete without highlighting Ghana in the story. You get it? And Ghana and South Africa, we have history, relationship history, which dates back in history even at the time of President Kwame Nkrumah. Now, Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah actively supported South Africa during their fight against apartheid. And
every aspect.
And you know, Ghana at the time positioned herself as a liberation hub, because Nkrumah at the time believed that Africa's independence is interconnected. And we also believed in the Pan-Africanism idea that, African state should move as one political and economic force. So politically, we all share the same ideas. And on the diplomatic front, we are very connected. The attack should never have happened. And the African Union should step into this issue. They must address the issue. They must condemn it. And if there are any disciplinary actions, it should be exerted on the perpetrators and active actors in the attack.
Absolutely.
However, Mimi, there is a troubling trend and a perceived correlation between xenophobic attacks in South Africa and periods leading up to municipal elections. And it is also clear that during these politically sensitive periods, social tensions become easier to exploit. And the vulnerable foreign nationals are the one scapegoated. And it's also true that South Africans have some pressing needs and challenges. They face high unemployment rate, unstable power supply, high standard of living. And so they tend to eliminate any foreign national that is seen to be competing with them in that same space. But it shouldn't happen, because in this country, we also have the same issues. We have high unemployment rate, unstable power supply, high standard of living. Yet still we're able to live peacefully with other foreign nationals, including South Africans. Look, there are some successful South African companies in this country that are doing well. We don't go after them.
Yeah.
We just patronize them and live peacefully with them. Should we also say that because we are facing challenges in this country, we will go after them? No. As an African country, we should embrace ourselves because we have this mindset that Africa must prosper. And so you going after a vulnerable foreign national shouldn't be the issue. And as I said earlier, I'm calling on the African Union to condemn this issue. This issue must be condemned. And the people seen in the viral video, these are very popular people in South Africa. And they should be arrested immediately.
Yeah, I think
they are very popular people in South Africa. It's easy to get them.
The Dula group or something
Exactly.
like that.
It's easy to get them, Mimi. So I don't understand why up till now, there has not been any arrest. I mean, it's very sad, Mimi. It's very, very sad. And there was a popular lady in some of the viral videos saying that stay in your country and develop your country.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen.
Are you serious? So we should move your country.
Exactly.
I think they should go back.
Exactly.
I think they should go back and read history.
Then you will serve all South African countries.
It's illiteracy. Some people are educated, but they just don't know.
No, but it's very bad.
They should actually go back and read their history.
It's very sad. And she was very bold and was very
confidently saying it in public.
It was disgusting to watch that a woman would stand. And you see, this also is not exactly the platform to want to, push any gender.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But a woman should not be seen doing that without any information.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do that. You can't stand in public and do that with no information.
Unacceptable.
Especially when you start talking about the country. If you said that, maybe the race or maybe the people, then you want to go on that tangent.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you're not specifying which nationals they are.
Absolutely.
But you want to talk and then you talk about Ghana.
Being specific.
Ghanaians who have never come for any South African company, have never come against all the churches in South Africa that are well patronized, are Ghanaian churches.
Exactly.
Even the companies making a lot of profits in this country are owned by South Africans.
South African companies.
MTN, for example, and some other companies.
We don't go after them.
Imagine.
And so if we should go on that tangent, I mean, it will be a very bad news for Africa.
Seriously.
And so
very sad.
I mean,
so again, I go back to the conversation we had earlier this year on making Africa borderless again. Or making Africa borderless, which was had at the what's the name of the program? Why do I always forget? And anytime the prosperity dialogue. Yes, thank you very much, team.
Africa prosperity
dialogue. And this year's theme was making Africa borderless.
Yeah.
Have we seen what it means to make Africa borderless? We haven't made Africa borderless. It's easier to go to South Africa now, and so many Ghanaians are moving there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Do we see what it means? And so then again, if I ask that this conversation be clear, this conversation should be really written out and thought through, because I think that the people at the National Africa Prosperity Dialogue team, they do understand what they're asking for. They do understand what it is they're asking for. And it's a good ask, but the people you are asking this for, are they ready?
Are they ready? That's the question.
Are they ready for this?
Yeah.
So Mimi, I mean, African Union, as I said earlier, should largely step into this issue and I mean, take over the issue, condemn it largely. And if there are any disciplinary actions, Mimi, it should be exerted on some of these popular personalities seen in the attack. And they shouldn't be spared. In fact, they should be the last time we are seeing such an unfortunate situation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I always say this, we are very tired of the summits.
Oh, yeah.
People will wear nice suits, put on nice perfumes, come and read nice statements. But at the end of the day, we will go back to the same nightmare. We are tired, just like the economic dialogue. We had economic dialogue in this country. Where I'm coming, we had an economic dialogue in this country. Today, our inflation stands at 3.2%. But prices of goods and services are very high. So what was the essence of the economic dialogue summit? It was needless. It is only under auto-forcing economics that you can have inflation stand at 3.2%. And yet still, price of goods and services will be very high.
Okay, moving on.
It's very bad.
Moving on.
That is not the conversation.
I've always said to people that sometimes, and last week we had this conversation about the water prices, the pure water prices. I hear a young lady has been rewarded with a fridge and all of that. I don't know where that's from. I'm going to look into that story properly. But when we were having that conversation, we did say that, you see, it's one thing talking about inflation. And so very soon I'm going to put together a program that we're going to discuss what inflation truly means.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about inflation being at 3.2%, and then the price of goods and services still hiking up, or just at where they
and just to add that,
I think that one is a misconception.
That's what I'm saying.
The point is
no. Guys,
I think he brought that one.
That is the message you guys are preaching.
I think he brought that.
That was the message you guys are preaching.
You brought that. How much were you buying?
Inflation is very low.
How much were you buying a bag of rice?
Inflation is very low.
How much were you buying a bag of rice in 2014? How much were you buying a bag of rice
That's the message you guys are preaching.
In 2026, we are buying a bag of rice at a very less price.
If people continue, we'll just end the show and I'll move on, because this is not my topic for today. I'm just saying that I am going to put together a program that will bring stakeholders together. So we have this conversation on, and really break it down what inflation means. So that one is not your conversation to have. If you have, go on your social media page and go and do it. So President Mahama on power outages, he says power outages not to Dumsor as Ghana deploys 2,500 transformers, and this is a conversation coming in from. Let's break it down a little bit. President John Dramani Mahama has assured Ghanaians that recent power outages across parts of the country are as a result of ongoing system upgrade and not a return to the prolonged electricity crisis popularly known as a doom. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to this conversation again. Last year, when we sat here, or the year before, so we sat here in 2024 and 2025, and we were talking about Dumsor, and they said it's not Dumsor, it's Dumsor. And some people said they didn't understand the Dumsor. It doesn't make sense. So we're coming back to this Dumsor conversation, and others are saying that we should accept it. Jesse James,
Mimi,
have you been justified?
At the end of the day, you will see whether I've been justified or not.
Okay, go ahead.
But Mimi, this is not the first time. And this will not be the first time a government will patronize or purchase transformers or conduct an upgrade and maintenance at our various power stations. In fact, the recent power outages we are experiencing cannot be linked or attributed to the procurement of transformers. Look,
I see.
The fact of the matter is that the NDC administration and President Mahama is very incompetent in managing our energy sector.
Wow.
Look, when it comes to...
honest opinion.
Yes, my honest opinion. Look, when it comes to Dumsor in this country, the NDC has no classmates. Because it was under this same President Mahama around 2015 that private businesses collapsed due to Dumsor. It was under this same President Mahama that students preparing for BECA and WASI failed at an unprecedented level. Most of the courses attributed to Dumsor. It was under this same President Mahama around 2015, if you remember, the cold store operators were forced to dispose of their perishable protein products due to Dumsor. It was under this same President Mahama. For the first time in the history of our nation, celebrities and musicians got provoked because Dumsor was disrupting their musical concerts. And so they staged a demonstration against the sitting president, President Mahama. Today, it is the same President Mahama, the enemy we know. It is the same enemy we have been faced with yesterday's nightmare. Look, I always say this, and last week I said it, that when some of these guys in the NDC are talking, Mimi, they don't listen to themselves. Because if they really listen to themselves, they will realize that their narrative or argument lacks coherence, and it doesn't hold water. They always talk about 24-hour economy. You guys can't even keep the light on for 6 hours, let alone for 24 hours. And we sit in this country, and the president wants to make justification as to why there is Dumsor in this country. We all know that when you mention the name of President Mahama, it's Dumsor you will hear. And today, President Mahama is the only person in this country that can challenge God. Because God said, let there be light. And there was light. There comes President Mahama who says, let there be no light. And yes, there will be no light. The sector minister, I don't know what he is doing at his post. There has not been any active response from him. And people are suffering. Businesses are collapsing. Now the country is on autopilot. There is no direction. There is no effective leadership. Ministers and CEOs are insulting men of God. They don't care about the well-being of Ghanaians.
Okay.
And what they know is just the normal brain-licking rhetoric that they know in politics. Look, we are faced with Dumsor. Accra is dark. Ghana is dark. There is Dumsor. And that's fact. It's high time your president sit up and fix the issue. The issue is not about buying new transformers. Because over the 8 years, MPP bought transformers. But we didn't experience...
So I'm going to hold you right there.
Yeah.
So last year and the year before, your energy minister at the time talked about how some transformers had gone bad.
Exactly.
And they had stayed there they were not maintained properly.
Exactly.
And so what we were experiencing at the time was as a result of transformers that were not being serviced properly or serviced on time, and so they were changing and we were working on that. It does just mean that transformer CACing that was happening at the time did not happen until the Mahama administration, because we're experiencing Dumsor at the time as well.
But it was not serious as we are facing it now.
Oh, well, it was bad in my area.
And let me tell you, ECG does transformer servicing every 6 months.
Oh, but that's not what Napo told us.
That's not what he told us. That's not what he told us.
No, but they changed transformers. They serviced them. But we didn't experience the level of Dumsor
we actually did.
Chairman, let me complete my submission.
When you're done,
Let me complete my submission.
Because at the time,
I admit that during our time, we faced transformers, we bought new transformers, we did maintenance, we did an upgrade.
We had constant lights out, bro.
Mimi, it was not as severe as
it was bad in my area.
It now.
It was bad in my area.
That's an isolated issue. I'm telling you that this is a widespread issue. The Dumsor we are facing now is a widespread issue. And the fact of the matter is that we have gone back to the days of Dumsor, and that's fact.
Okay, we'll see about that.
And that's fact.
We'll see about that.
People are crying out there because there is Dumsor, and it's all over the country. What we are talking about might be an isolated community or an isolated area. But what we are experiencing now, Mimi, you can't reject the fact that the whole country is experiencing Dumsor, and that is fact. The learned Ghanaian with conscience will attest to the fact that what we are experiencing can never be compared to what happened during the NPP 8 years in power.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jesse. When we sit here, Salim and Jesse, I always say one thing, that we need to be. There's a thing we say about MX24. We're factual. We need to be fearless, which is something I love about my panelists. But we need to also be factual. And I always say that because I think that this is the only, this is the only platform in Ghana that has young people as panelists constantly. And we have conversations as young people who understand that the future that we're looking for can only be designed by us. Absolutely. So we don't care about the older people. Let them do their politicking. Let them politics everything. But when it comes to us right here on this platform, and that's why I sit here, because I'm not affiliated to any political party, but also most importantly, I'm a young girl trying to become in this country, Ghana. And I don't have anywhere else to go unless God favors me and throws me out of this place. I want to remain here and build the country with all of us. Sure. But when we're doing that, we need to be very, very careful. And I'm saying this is not part of my submission for this morning. Jesse, I'm saying this because of you. Because in that time when we had to start asking for a schedule, a timetable to be given to us, it was crazy what we were dealing with when it comes to light out. Oh, yeah. I live in a... Yes.
Even more than that.
I was living in an area... No, I don't want you people to talk. I don't want you people to talk. I don't want that. I don't want the back and forth. Because you were not experiencing what I was experiencing. Yeah. JKD was living at Chimota. And JKD will call me, Mims, make we go Spintex because, Charlie, my house, I don't get light, for almost a week. And so we're experiencing something that we've seen before. And I said it this morning on this platform, that you people, let's not be too political about, let's not politics this conversation.
No, but you're saying the reality.
No, Jesse.
You're saying the reality.
Jesse, I said this morning that let's not politics this conversation to a point where we go back to what we experienced in 2015. And note that the friends of Mahama will not have light issues. The people in Parliament and the big men in MPP and NDC, they have plans and things. It's us.
Yeah.
It is us that is going to be facing businesses. I have a little shop that I run, and I have a fridge in the shop. Yeah. If people come to the shop and they don't get cold water to buy, it is my business that is going down.
Exactly.
I have a friend who owns a salon. Her name is Tio's Beauty. Tio's Beauty only runs on light. on Saturday when we were trying to get ready for my sister's wedding, we had lights out in East Legon.
Exactly.
And she couldn't, we had to wait for the light to come back for us to get ourselves out. That business was going down. So it's not about you people and your politics. It's about the Ghanaian people that are going to suffer if this light issue gets worse.
Exactly.
So please.
And it has gotten worse.
Let's go back to the conversation. Because you
gotten
people,
worse, Mimi.
you want to vex me.
You don't want to vex you. We are just saying the reality.
So it happened in the past.
You've made a submission,
we've seen it before. We've seen it before. We saw it a year ago. We saw it 2 years ago. And it looks like it is coming back. And if Mahama says, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama says that it is transformer issues, and that is what they're dealing with, let's wait and see what it looks like.
Absolutely.
Because we're not going to accept anything that will bring will stifle the progress of this country. We're not going to accept it again.
It's already started.
It's over. I'm going to take your submission, please.
Okay, so we will not lazily, we will not actually sit down for the MPP to lazily brand this as Dumsor. To be very honest, I think we should actually understand the situations at hand. But first of all, I would like to apologize and empathize with the good people of Ghana. If your light has gone off, if your business has been disrupted, if your daily activity or your daily routine has been affected, we plead and we are sorry that you are going through that. But let's not trivialize the issue and make it look as though we've not experienced this before or this is a case of Dumsor. The president has already made a public statement that this is actually an upgrade on aging and overloaded transformers, which was even stated under the MPP administration.
So it's interesting that we're coming back to that.
They were actually upgrading some of the transformers at the time. So this shouldn't be branded as Dumsor.
It is.
It's only a lazy approach for people to start branding this as Dumsor. In any case, are we facing any power production issue? No, because even under your government, you made mention that our government produce more. We produce power in excess. So how are you now telling us that? No. How are you telling? No. Come on.
But I've never said that on the show.
Allow me.
You didn't have to say. Your
You didn't have to say
said
it.
So you shouldn't.
No. You didn't have to say it, but that's the point you're trying to make.
I've not made that point.
That's the point you're trying to make. So, as we all can see, the energy minister has made it clear that this is an ongoing maintenance across the whole country, and that it has actually started from somewhere, and we should all try and brace ourselves because it's a necessary evil. If we don't do it, we will experience worse. So the point is, today, we would plead with the good people of Ghana that they should try and bear with the government as we are trying to solve the challenge we came to meet. So my brother here is making reference to what the NDC government did in the past and all that. In any case, when we were leaving office in 2016, the debt we left there was 9.4 billion Ghana cedis. We didn't just, that was not just accrued under the NDC. It was accumulated even before the NDC, and some were accumulated under our government. Yet, when we came into power, what we came to see, or what we inherited, was over 70 billion Ghana cedis of debt. That was what your government did. They left a serious debt in the energy sector. We also left you with ESLA levy. The ESLA levy was supposed to actually take care of our energy sector debt. Yet, what did you do with that levy? What did you do with it? You collateralized it to an extent that IPPs were shutting down. Under your government, IPPs were shutting down. And our government, what we have done, when we came into office, we are not complaining, but we are putting in measures so that our lights will be kept on. When we came into power, we've made a payment of some of the loans that were taken under your, government.
But it's not new. It's not something.
We made payment of over 1.4 billion to IPPs. What did you do under your government?
NPP also did
you
payment.
left a lot of debt in the energy sector. That's what we are talking about.
It's no news. It's no news.
You came to meet 9.4 million, 9.4 billion.
We also paid your debt. So make a submission. We also paid your debt. So you can't make a substantive
allow me to flow. Allow me to flow.
You're directing questions,
So what?
so he's obliged to respond.
No. I have to actually finish. No, I have to actually finish.
You guys also left debt.
How
so
much
this is not something that you should make a point of.
How much did we leave?
People leave debt and people come and pay.
You came to meet a debt of 9.4 billion Ghana cedis.
Ghanaians to understand your stance.
You came to meet a debt of 9.4 billion.
People leave debt for people to come and pay.
By the time you left government,
so you can't make
by the time you left government,
so make a submission for people to
over 70 billion Ghana cedis at the time. So when we came into government, we came to meet serious debt. We came to see a crippled energy sector. And that is what we are talking about. We are solving the issue. So you should take your time, relax, and listen to what the government is doing. And what we've done. Let me tell you what we are doing. Let me tell you what we are doing. What we are doing is that we came to relax and listen to what I'm saying. Relax and listen to what I'm saying. You have to moderate the show.
Me, I have to moderate the show. When I told you to make your submission and you were directing your questions to me, he's responding to you, telling me I should moderate my show. Please answer your question.
I think he was also doing the same.
Please
he was also directing
make
questions. But the point here is that I remain quiet and listen to what he was saying. So the point is, we came to meet a crippled energy sector. When we came, we didn't just complain. What we did was that we put in measures to pay some of the debts that was accrued under your government. We made payment. The finance ministry released an amount of over $1.4 billion to the IPPs. That's what we are doing. And on top of that, what we've done is that we are trying to do some maintenance in areas where there are faulty transformers so that we can continue with this transformation. So the noise you should stop making noise and wait, relax. No.
It's not.
This is not Dumsor.
Okay.
What we are doing is actually, the point is, we are not going to arrogantly come out and say that Ghanaians should go and prepare their own timetable. What the energy minister is doing is that he's constantly engaging the public. Yeah. That is what he's doing.
He's speaking to us at 2 today.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's been releasing communique from time to time that people living in areas that will be affected so that they will know ahead of time. Then you know what to do. But under your government, what you did, the energy minister at the time, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempe, came out. No, he came out. No. I have to address that.
But
no. He was actually making reference to the government. So I have to make reference to the SY government because he's actually...
Just a few seconds to wrap up. So if you want to use that to address what someone did in the past, please, that's entirely on you.
I think you're interjecting. Allow me to flow. So that we can actually...
I'm telling you to stay on course. I'm telling you to stay on course. This conversation...
I'm actually on course.
You're not.
No. He made reference to...
What are you doing?
He is telling us that they did better.
That's what
and I'm
doing.
Trying to make him understand that we are doing better under this government, and we are not going to complain. We are not going to complain.
Okay.
The point is, we are not going to complain. We are not going to tell the people that they should go and prepare their own timetable.
Okay.
The energy minister is engaging the people. We are giving them the right information at the right time so that they will know that, indeed, this is what we are doing.
Okay. All right.
And I'm saying that same cannot be said under the NPP government.
Very much not.
Because at the time, the energy minister came to us telling us that we should go and prepare our own timetable. Who does that? At the time, we were experiencing serious power outages in this country. To the extent that it affected Otunfo Osei-Tutu. He came out to publicly say it. And that's what you should be concerned about. So then this government is doing well for the good people of Ghana. The only thing I can say is that the good people of Ghana should bear with us. And
they should bear with you. Okay. We live to
the good people of Ghana should bear with us and understand that this is what's actually going on. This is the truth.
They should bear with you.
This is the truth of the matter, and I urge every Ghanaian should remain calm and wait for the government to actually fulfill what it has promised the good people of Ghana.
Awesome. His Excellency Dramani Mahama has also spoken to us, so we're hoping that in the coming months these issues will be, resolved. But away from that, another very pressing issue, conversation that people have touted to not be priority and all, is back in the news. Minority calls for anti-LGBTQ bill, QI bill, to be passed under certificate of urgency. So the minority in Parliament has called for the proposed anti-LGBTQI bill to be fast-tracked and passed under a certificate of urgency when the House resumes in May to bring what it describes as finality to the long-running debates. The appeal was made by the Member of Parliament for Gushegu and Ranking Member on Parliament Legal Affairs Committee, Hassan Tampuli, during a stakeholder engagement of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee on Friday 24. Speaking at the meeting, Mr. Tampuli said the minority believes Parliament should make decisively or should move decisively on the legislation once it resumes or reconvenes. Gentlemen, I'm going to start with you, Jesse. This conversation on LGBT.
Yeah. So I think, was it last week or last 2 weeks, we had a conversation on it, and we in the MPP have registered our position when it comes to the president assenting to the bill. And the Speaker of Parliament has also made some assurances to the fact that he will make sure and catalyze the process for the bill to be passed by Parliament for the president to assent to the bill. We in the MPP will be patient with the president. We know that whether the certificate of urgency, whether it will be considered or not, at the end of the day, Parliament will pass that bill. And if Parliament passes that bill, Ghanaians expect the president to assent to the bill, because his comments in opposition confirms that he really believes in the anti-LGBTQ bill. And so we in the MPP or the minority are just helping the president to establish his statement. And so yes, I believe that Parliament will pass the bill. And last week I said that by the end of this year, it should be passed. And the president must assent to the bill.
Okay.
And if the president refuses, if the bill is passed and the president refuses to assent to the bill, we will go on a naked demonstration. And that is fact.
Okay.
That is fact. So, I mean, we'll be patient with the president. Parliamentarians will do their work when it comes to bill, reading them, and we will have patience with them. Ghanaians will have patience with them. And when the bill is passed, we expect the president to assent to it. And if he doesn't,
then you have
exactly.
All right, Salim.
Yeah, so we're from this sudden urgency and the concerns about...
So you won't make your submission.
You
want to bring me inside.
I don't understand.
You won't do your submission.
I don't understand.
You won't allow me to
please
make my submission.
Make your submission. Just don't interject, please.
Okay.
So the point is, I think the minority can actually do better, because going back to, I think a few weeks ago, they went to their party headquarters and went to rant, make a lot of noise that the president should assent to the bill, the president should assent to the bill, and that he's refusing to assent to the bill. Yet, the point here is that, has it already passed through the right processes? Has it passed through the democratic processes, which is to pass through Parliament? Once the bill passes through Parliament and it gets to the president's doorstep, the president has already made a lot of public statements that he will assent to the bill. For that one, it has been established on so many occasions. Okay. To the extent that because of some of these public statements, when he went to the US, he was refused an honorary certificate. Right? So for me, I think the noise should be lowered down. The duties of the minority is to go back into Parliament and go and push for the bill to be passed so that it will get to the president's doorstep. Then the president will assent to it. Either than that, I think they are not being fair to the president. Because in any case, the president cannot autonomously decide to assent to any bill if it hasn't passed through the right structures. You would agree with me on that?
Okay.
Under the SY administration, when the bill was actually passed in Parliament, to the extent that it was ready to be sent to the presidency. What the president do at the time? What did Nanado do at the time?
There was a Supreme Court.
He actually let me land. I'll get to that point. The president actually wrote through his secretary to Parliament that they shouldn't bring the bill to the presidency. At the time, the point you are making, at the time, no case or no court case was actually in place at the time. The point is, it is only reasonable or logical for us to have the argument that it is possible that the president at the time knew what was going to happen. That was why he sent that he actually wrote that letter to Parliament. That's the point. So I don't think the MPP or the minority has moral temerity to be talking about the urgency of the case or what have you. That's the point.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much, Salim, and thank you so much, Jesse Jakes, for joining me this morning to have this conversation. Well, Salim Adams is member of the NDC communications team, and Jesse Jakes belongs to the MPP as a communications team member. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. This conversation continues online. If you have any comments on it, you can join us on all social media platforms, MX24GH. Make your comments. Let's keep learning and growing together. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Well, Events Guide is up right here on the AM Club. We'll be right back after this.